All right, so we're recording and we can see Ty. We had a lot of technical difficulties.
I have a very bad laptop camera, so it took a lot of clicking buttons over and over again, and luckily it just popped up.
Yeah, hey, it worked a lot better than I thought it was going to.
Listen, I don't know what the issue is. It's just how the laptop is.
I always just yell at my computer until it does what it wants. That's my version of tech support.
I'm just really bad at it. I just never know how to fix this type of stuff. Like I'm not smart enough to be like, my camera is malfunctioning. What are my hotkeys and my macros and micros? I don't know.
I don't even know what a hotkey is, man. I majored in history.
I think a hotkey is something that's hot, and it's a key.
Oh, so like a cold key is cold.
Yeah, yeah, you got it. You already know what you're talking about.
But a cold key, when you turn it, breaks off.
I guess it does.
Anyway, so what we're doing today is we're gonna try to kind of show the structure of what we used to do on campus. Me and Ty created this idea. We called it Brew Crew because we couldn't think of anything else. And we've had I had the pleasure of hosting it for 2 years, and would have been 2 years without Corona, right?
Yeah, it would have been 2 years without the Corona bug virus
So you
coming
got
around.
like one and a little bit more than a half, right?
I would say one and a 3/4 a year. I almost
Really?
got 2 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you think about it, what we left our
Yeah,
campus.
March 12th.
Yeah, it was right after spring break, and we had one more week left, and then we had to leave. So 2 months. It's probably what on week 6 I think we might have left. So
Fair point,
close.
fair point. Because you're right, the mod did transfer over, so that's halfway through the semester.
Yeah. So I could say I got maybe 3/4, maybe even just say half a semester. So year and a half.
Well, so anyway, where this idea came from is Ty continued the meetings after we switched online to video chat type deal, and I got this idea of, well, that this is helping us. We're continuing with the alumni and everyone, and why not branch out and try to continue the work that we started on campus? And then I reached out to Ty, and he, of course, was more than willing to help out. And yeah, so what we generally do is, like I said, our group was called Brew Crew. It was a men's spirituality group, and it was basically an emotional support group. That's hands down, that was the most important thing. And it was faith-based, of course, and we really just started off with a check-in, then moved into claim space, and then a topic. So this is not going to be like a full meeting because we don't have people, which is weird that it's just us two, but
Just back to freshman year. Nothing changed.
that's true. That's a very good point. When we started, it was just me and a guy named Alex Roche, and then Ty was the only person to show up.
Yeah, so it's really nothing different. It's not like we're new to this. This is pretty much the old stomping grounds.
That's a very good point, because when I started showing up to the group, it was just me and Brian Valentine and Alex Roche. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's the only common denominator. That guy can talk. Anyway, all good though. He's awesome. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah, love him. He's a
Yeah.
great part.
Yeah. So the meetings usually start off with a lot of chatter like this, and then we got this awesome Tibetan singing bowl that we've used on campus. We used to have a different one that Brian Ballantyne provided until it was disappeared somewhere. Did you ever find it? Or
Nope, just gone.
yeah, it was like Bermuda Triangled.
Yeah, so hopefully someone's hopefully someone's using it and taking
Hopefully, yeah, it went to a good
using
place,
it for
right?
its purpose. Not a soup bowl or anything like that. Just
Oh God. I was thinking that, like, I was thinking that before we started, when you were having your camera troubles, I was looking at this thing, and I'm like, it'd be great just to put like some jelly beans or something inside.
well, there's like a really cool video, and it's I don't know if it's like a Tibetan singing bowl. I don't know stuff like that, but there's this huge meditation bowl, and it had like water in it, like almost all the
Mhm.
way to the top, and it had flowers in it, and it had like just one of the big I don't know a stick. I don't know what those are called, but they just went around the bowl, and from the vibrations of it, like made the water shoot up and stuff like that. Really cool, really
Yeah,
memorizing and like
that's awesome.
very like nice on the eyes. Like it was just cool. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I've seen Tibetan singing bowls fill up with water. I've seen a lot of singing bowls do that. Like, I've never done it, but yeah, that sounds awesome. Anyway, so how we usually do this is we go around. So these are pretty fun. I don't know if Ty can even hear it.
Yep, I can hear it.
Oh, look at that. So this is kind of how we do it. We do like a moment of silence, just to power down and experience the week. And we wash all of our emotions and everything that has come over us, and we just unplug for just a quick moment. All right, so just take a second and come back to the room or wherever you are, and this is when we start with check-ins. You want to start, or you want me to start?
I can start. I'll hold since we don't, I don't have my spirit animal with me. I'll hold a little
Stressful.
stress ball.
Yeah, you
Uh,
had you had a Klondike or Coke.
yeah, Coke the polar bear. We can go into that at some point to explain that, but
Yeah.
for out of context, it's a polar bear stuffed animal, nothing to do with drugs. So just
Oh yeah, I didn't even
yeah.
think.
No, it's fine. I'm just
Yeah, it's called Brew Crew, and they're advising cocaine. So beer. We get them on both angles.
to be honest, everyone should enjoy it then.
Yeah,
It's a party. It's a party. Just come join us.
there's no beer and there's no cocaine. Sorry.
um. Anyway, I think the week overall has been fine. Still hard adjusting to the quarantine life. I think it's just with being a senior in college and you're close to all these physical classes and you have like students next to you. And now with being online and that whole transition, it's just sloppy. Not like that's the professor's fault or the school's fault. I think it's coronavirus's fault. And I think it's just a big problem with trying to get your productivity and your work ethic going because you're in your house all day. Or at least in my perspective, I'm in my house all day. So I can't really do anything. So it's been a little struggle with that. I'm very much ready for our online classes to just be over and done with because it's awful. Hats off to anyone that is able to do online classes, like just in general, without there being a pandemic, because I like don't have the mental fortitude to be able to do it. But besides that, overall, the week's been good. I can't really complain. I'm healthy, and my family's healthy during these times, so stuff to be thankful for, even though it can be stressful. So I'm in with that.
So, as Ty just demonstrated, we start with I'm whatever your name is. I'm checking in, and then we
Well, I
end with
forgot
I'm in
that
with
first
that.
part, but
That's all right. I didn't
it's
even
right.
realize.
First episode. It's the first episode.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, there's tons of mistakes that are going to happen because we're going to try to record this without messing up. So
We'll see how it goes.
yeah, there's not going to be like an extra blooper reel. We're going to try to do this in one take.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's what they said when they crash landed on the moon.
I mean, it worked out.
Anyway, so I'm Eric. I'm checking in.
Eric.
What's up, Ty? Yeah, I mean, it didn't really affect me because I was mostly doing online classes anyway before the quarantine. But what really has affected me was I got laid off from my job. I'm a grad student right now, so I went to Alvarado University where we met, and that's my alma mater. That's where Ty's finishing up his degree, and I'm getting a master's degree. And to help pay for the master's degree, I took a job as a graduate assistant. I couldn't think of the name. And when whole Corona hit and campus closed, they laid us off and for a month, and then they just canceled everything. And I'm about 9 emails deep with my supervisor trying to figure out when I'm going back, and it just seems that no one knows, and nothing. No offense to them, no offense to the school, just nobody knows. I mean, everything's closed. So I'm laid off indefinitely until probably the fall. Fingers crossed, the fall. So that's been a struggle, going a month or two without a paycheck. I just got a job though. Thankfully, I finally got a temporary employment just to get me through it. Other than that, just living like Larry, trying to make it through the day. Had this idea for the Brew Crew podcast, and I've been trying to work on that a little bit, but motivation has been the hardest part, trying to motivate myself to do the work for the online classes, because it's like, oh, because it's like, what's the point? Like, you're not in class, and it's like when I got to online classes, I had 2 assignments left, and they determined that my first due date is April 30th and my second due date is May 12th. It was March 12th, and I was like, why even try? Like, everything's like 2 months away. And then I let a month go by without doing anything, and now my due date is vastly coming up, and it's crunch time. So that's fun. But other than that, I'm not really that worried. Just moving right along. Currently looking at houses to live next year after I get married to my fiance. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We found one we liked. We can't see it because of Corona, so we're just kind of SOL at this point. But anyway, I'm in with that.
I was thinking of a name like Brew Crew Cast or Brewcast.
Oh, God. That's what you're thinking of?
Yeah. Just when you said Brew Crew Podcast, I was like, you know what? Brewcast.
Yeah. Or we could be, what is it? It'd be BCC. It could be BC squared.
I mean, something to think about.
Some food for thought. Well, do you have anything to claim space for, Ty? Other than Brew Cast.
Something to claim space. Well, man. Yeah, I have something to claim space. Let me claim some space. That was me claiming space. I think it's with going back to Brew Crew, I think it's a hard change with not getting to do the final year. in like a physical like presence, because that kind of is Brew Crew.
Yep.
And not to like feel high and mighty or honcho, but you know, I think what we all enjoy about Brew Crew, you know, the people that are members and us included, like the final hurrah of like King's Speech.
Yeah.
And
I had that thought just a few days ago about what about King's Speech?
And I actually been thinking about it too. I was thinking about maybe just doing like an online format, kind of like what we're doing right now. But it's definitely not the same with just how, you know, the pandemic is going. And I don't think it's going to change until, you know, maybe midsummer to fall at this point. So it's a little hard to bear, I guess, because it's almost like you're in your own little seclusion bubble. So I'm kind of excited that we're kind of to start trying to get this snowballing and see what happens. But, you know, besides that, you know, that's all I needed to talk about. So I'm putting the space back.
So I'll claim some space. For those of you who don't know, we used to have a guy, his name was Mark, and that's how he would claim space. He would actually grab the air. He was awesome. Great brewer. What a guy. I'll claim some space and reference the stuffed animal thing that Ty was talking about. So this is a year before Ty's time at Alvernia, and even before my time. This was a Brian Ballantyne thing. When he started the group, he just called it Men's Group, and he found this bag of this random allotment of stuffed animals that were just in this Norman's Hallmark bag, and he didn't know who they belonged to. He didn't know where they came from. And he just started handing them out and assigned each person a spirit animal. And it was weird because each person ended up emulating the animal in that way. Like, perfect example. I mean, just when you would get an animal, it was like that it became you in a way. Like you would get assigned an animal and be like, it's kind of not me. And then as time went on, it's like, oh, it's totally him. Like we had a friend who got a Valentine's Day bear, and he's got the biggest, which he just got it because it was the only thing that was left, but he's got the biggest heart in the world. So it ended up making sense. And Ty's is a polar bear, which actually was mine. And when it was mine, his name was Klondike, but then Ty got it and renamed him Coke, which, of course, your spirit animal, you get to name him. I actually switched spirit animals because I was like one of the only people that was able to do that because it's
Unanimous vote.
What?
Unanimous vote.
Yeah, it has to be a majority vote. And there was one person on the fence, and that was Tyler Arnold. And oh no, it was actually, I think it was Alex. I don't know. I can't remember, but I remember whoever it was holding it over my head, and he's like, "Which way should I vote?" And, you know, it was really funny. So I ended up switching mine to this guy right here. This is Scott. I actually brought mine because I thought of it like 2 minutes before we started filming. Yours is locked up on campus anyway, so.
Yeah, I know. Free my polar bear Coke.
Yeah. So I became the unicorn, and I named him Scott with one T because the official animal of Scotland is a unicorn. So that's all I got to claim space for. So I'll put my space back. Yeah. Do you want to introduce the topic, or do you want me?
Dude, go ahead, dude. Roll through.
I say you go for it. I got to do the check-ins, so.
All right. So our topic for early evening, can't say at night anymore, but
what time is it? Oh,
5. Anyway, the topic for crew tonight, or Brewcast or Brew Crew podcast, whatever. The topic for tonight is talking about what Brew Crew has meant for us and like what it's done for us personally. And I think that is a great topic and a great way to start. Listen. Can you let me finish? Stop laughing. It's a great way to like start. Like how else do you introduce people to Brew Crew if you don't talk about how it helps us?
Yeah.
So I can actually do some prop imagery for this.
Oh, you're
And
gonna split screen?
no,
Oh,
so there's a good saying that Eric uses all the time to describe Brew Crew. And, you know, I think the best way he describes it and talks about it is like this.
oh, look at that.
And it's a band of brothers.
Great series.
Fantastic series. And the reason why I always love when Eric says that, and even with other members of Brew Crew that say it, is because it's true. I think a lot of Brew Crew members come from various walks of life with very much different perspectives. And people you probably would not hang out or talk to or maybe go as far as to say associate with if it wasn't for this club where we decided to meet once a week to talk about our highs and lows and just about life.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of weird to convince an entire room full of grown men to sit in a circle, hold stuffed animals, and talk about their feelings. And
Yeah,
yet we got like 8 or 10 people.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot harder to actually do than just like saying like, oh, that's pretty easy. We can even say this with like the recruiting process of trying to get people or trying to get guys.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's either maybe the spiritual part that throws them off, or the emotional part, or it's just how maybe we act out of it. But
that doesn't help.
But I think it's something that Brew Crew has given a lot of people many different things. I know from your perspective, you can easily talk about it. I know from my perspective, like I can talk about it. Personally, for me, going into Alvernia, I was looking for like that spiritual, like theology, deep thinking kind of like club. And I found it through Eric, and I decided to show up, and it was a great time. And I always wanted to keep going back because we had these deep discussions and we're able to kind of talk about how we were feeling throughout the week. So I kind of got a sense of, I don't know if I want to use the word like safety, but it's more of just like, I want to say like I was able to get a community. Even though it was of 2 people, I was able to get like a sense of like, oh wow, I belong to this group because they're helping me think deeply about these spiritual issues and like emotional issues too. But like that's why I think one thing that I've gotten out of the Brew.
Yeah, I loved how you brought up the band of brothers, because I remember the phrase I remember when I said that the first time was when I switched over leadership from me to Ty, when we did one of our better King speeches events. It was definitely really good because we had a lot of alumni showing up. That's really why it was awesome. And the phrase I used before I said we were a band of brothers was, I said, despite my best efforts, we became a band of brothers, because this group definitely takes on a life of its own in the idea of, when you create something, you can, like when you're a carpenter and you create a chair, you're like, that's my chair. But this is more of the chair. You made a chair and then you left the room for a while and you came back and there was a table and everyone was having a banquet on it. And you're like, whoa, what happened here? It's like I left peanut butter out or something. It's just this group and this community enveloped in such a way and grew in such a way that like no one person can take credit for. And I don't take credit for it because it wasn't me. Like, I don't know what happened. Like it's like we were like carrying a bunch of chemicals and we fell down the stairs and we mixed them all together and we came up with the polio vaccine. Like, which I'm pretty sure that's how that happened. It's It's totally not.
You're a history major. You can't go making lies.
It's totally not. But if that makes sense, like it just it feels like we fell into this. It
It's
wasn't something that we like set out to do. It just happened, despite our best efforts, like despite our human um, limitations, despite our humanity, despite everything, the pain, suffering, the hurdles that were put in front of us, we somehow got to this point where we're both leaving the university soon, and we're realizing, well, as we're just chatting before this video, where it's not really a switch you can turn off. You know, like the reason the alumni come back, the reason that they always ask about it, the reason they keep texting is it's not like you can graduate and just be like, oh yeah, it's something I did once. You know, if you show up that consistently, if you're that much of a regular participant, it really isn't a thing you can just shut off and never think of again.
Yeah, I really like that. I think I can add words onto that and say like it almost adds to like a formation
Yeah.
of like a person. Not saying like, oh, you have to fit in this certain box or in this certain shape to like be accepted. That's not what I mean. Like saying that. I just mean I think it helps self-improve that are looking for self-improvement. You know, I'm not saying like it's a whole night and day change, but I think it allows us being in Brew Crew, I think, to try and find humility in certain ways by saying, man, you know what, I'm really struggling with, you know, maybe this math class. You know what, I'm really struggling with this transition to college. You know what, I'm really struggling with my spiritual life, or I'm really struggling just living, you know. That's super extreme, but I think that's something that we have an environment like Brew Crew where we were able to bring up those issues if need, you know, if need be, if that was like something that was really, really required by an individual.
Iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, it's in the Bible. They can't lie in that. Pretty sure that's an extra sin. So yeah, it's kind of where this came out of, and you know, we were both the leaders of it, and we helped shape this group, and it came, like Ty said, a rinky-dink 3-man operation to pretty much half the male population of Alvernia at one point. And it was, there's not many of us, let's be real.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get it, but it's just funny.
Until they got football, that was kind of true.
Yeah.
And or if they weren't a part of it, they at least knew about it. Like, we were well known in the male community at our school. The school we went to was like 65. It was 65% female when I started. I don't know what it's 55 now, but needless to say, not a lot of guys.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't even think I knew that some of the male population knew about us.
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them that would ask me about it, but they would never come. They didn't want to come, but they at least knew. If they didn't know what it was, they knew someone who was in it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and in that way they knew about it because everyone who was in it didn't shut up about it. So that's kind of cool. I don't know how true that is now with the football team. Cause do you have a football player or no?
No.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah,
yeah. But it's, as we're leaving the university, you know, Ty's going to grad school, maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, and I hopefully get a job, maybe. It's kind of, there's no one to keep the flame going, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but
We just had, you know, most of the members are juniors and seniors, some of them sophomore, but there's haven't been really any interest in, in like the freshmen, sophomores to really be like, I really want to be a part of this group. I think around, your age, Eric, and like my age, like not saying like we're super far apart, but like class wise, like we got a huge insurgence of like people wanting to come in at least.
Yep.
We got 8 to 10 people, which is ridiculous. Which like it doesn't sound like a lot at all, but like for us, like
No.
that was a big deal.
Yeah, we actually at one point we were talking about staggering the meetings because it got too many people.
Yeah, and it's crazy how high we got to, and then it just kind of slowly starts to level out and kind of dip, just because people maybe don't feel the need for it or have no interest in it.
Yeah, it's more of I think the way I see it, because I went to a few meetings this year, is that the interest to keep the group going is there, definitely there, but there's no one that's. It's more like, oh, I'm not going to do it. Someone else can do it, and no one sits there and says, no, I'm gonna not let this die.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that.
Yeah, because
And a lot of the stuff is also out of our hands. Obviously, it is a school organization. They have their rules on how they want to have their policy of it and stuff like that. So it's not like we can make all the decisions on how we want to do things. Obviously, we have to follow rules and, if you want to say even regulations. But
yeah, and like I'm not sitting here saying that it's dying on campus and I'm mad about it. I'm just saying that that's just how things go. Which it's unfortunate, but like I said, that's just how
the
things
nature,
are sometimes.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can't be. No,
I
I'm sorry.
too exist in reality.
Yeah, I mean it's just something we don't have control over.
Yeah,
You either have the curiosity to just go and participate. If you don't like, you don't like it, or you just don't. And there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
But
It would also be a lot different if someone in the mission and ministry office was a male and ran it like Brian used to run it that way,
yeah,
and that way they provide a lot of consistency. It provided a lot of, because he was an employee, but when we took over, it was completely student run, completely dependent on students to continue to want to run it, because it was a men's group and there's no men in the mission and ministry office anymore, so no one can run it.
yeah. Well, hey, well, to kind of get back on track, um, like what did you say? Like you think you got out of Brew Crew?
The most I, I would agree with you in saying that it definitely keeps you humble, because I've gone on job interviews where this has been plastered all over my resume, and people are like, "Oh, you created this thing," and I was like, "No." Like I definitely feel that when I say like this, it feels like I built a chair and then I came back and there was this huge party going. That's how I feel about it. Like I don't feel like I did that much, and I feel like this kind of created itself, and it definitely keeps you humble in that way of just of you always think to yourself, especially being a man in this society, you always think to yourself, hold it in, don't cry, don't show your emotions, don't show your cards, don't show your weakness because someone will use it against you. And inside everyone that has that persona, everyone who has that thought process, there is a person who just wants to tell everything, wants to spill the beans, wants to talk every once in a while, wants to be held, wants to emote and feel. And it's like that silent majority, the silent majority wants and needs a group like this, but you never hear about it, and no one provides a service like it. So therefore, you still don't hear about it, you know? Which is why I think when we started and we kind of, it was very slow our first year, it really was. And then our second year and our third year were the best too. And it spread like wildfire when people started showing up that you didn't expect to be there. Because there was the core group of guys that were in the campus ministry office all the time. Like it was our second home. I mean, Ty was one of them, I was one of them, and we just never left. Those, you expected those guys to show up, but when other people started showing up that were totally not in that realm at all, not in this spiritual theology major, theology minor, campus ministry office people, like when those people started showing up, it just really, it latched on. And a lot of people when we explained what we were, even if they realized that's not for me, they're like, but that's great, that sounds awesome, you know. So I definitely feel like there's a silent majority that wants / needs this, but we just don't talk about it.
Yeah. And that's why, that's why we're trying to bring it online,
Yeah, I know. There's people there, right?
Yeah, give it 15 years to get some traction, but they'll come knocking in 15.
Yeah, we'll put it on MySpace. No, there's already a Friendster page for it.
A what page?
Friendster?
A Friendster?
Oh, am I really that old?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. So you might be.
Google it. It's awesome. It was
Okay.
Friendster was like the social media before MySpace. So like MySpace improved on Friendster, and then Facebook improved on it's old.
Still have like the same concept of like your own page and status and stuff?
I don't think so. I think it was more of just a direct messaging platform.
Like AIM.
Yeah, it was a lot like that. I think it went out of business like 2003. I remember that it being popular when I moved to this house, which was 2002. So I remember it existing at that point.
Okay.
So I'm just aging myself is what you're telling me.
Old.
Yeah, I mean, I never was on it because I didn't own a computer or know what it was, but I at least knew that it existed.
You heard about it.
Yeah. Anyway, what about you? Because I had the privilege of being a member of this group for about half a semester before I entered into a leadership role. But you were more of a member a lot longer than I was, so I didn't know if you I was a leader longer than I was a member, so I didn't know if, because your experience is vastly more different than I am. So like, what does it feel to be like, especially because you came in as a first year student, like how does that bombardment, because I remember we really freaked you out your first meeting.
Yeah, it was a completely different kind of entrance into any other club that I kind of went into, with only 2 people in there, mind you.
Yeah.
But, because it was just you guys being so shocked and surprised that I decided to even show up. Not that I had an interest in it, but that I decided to show up there. For you guys, that was like not to call myself a diamond in the rough, but like it was pretty much a diamond in the rough that it was wow, there's a kid that actually wants to come to these clubs, like to these meetings every Thursday.
It was like finding a gold mine.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's how like you guys felt, and that was just one person. And from freshman year, and I think it was different, obviously, because Brew Crew did evolve, inside of its like club and stuff, because it used to be through the books and like we would have prompts already made for us, and maybe we can talk about why we don't like that at some point. But like for me, like I just always enjoyed the group, because like to me as a member, it always felt like a safe space that like I'm allowed to vent. And sometimes, with friendships that you have, you can vent, but you don't want to constantly rely on a couple of the same people because, sometimes people get tired of hearing your venting or your negative attitude or your emotions. But with Brew Crew, you get this opportunity to be like, you know what, I'm struggling with this right now. And for me, early on, the club was always like a spiritual journey, I would say, for me. Not in a way of like this whole like, oh, my third eye opened up. Like I see, I don't know,
The clouds parting, angelic
I see the
voices.
clouds parting. I see angels coming down from the heavens. I taste air. Like
This
not
is my son with whom I'm well pleased.
yeah, like not something ridiculous. It was just more of like I started realizing I kind of needed to have a better connection with God. And I think for me, I always wanted that, even why I chose Alberta University. And it kind of blossomed into this thing where it wasn't the school necessarily that provided me with this thought process. It was more of what Brew Crew gave to me. And, since we were talking about me becoming a member to then a leader, I'll talk about that like transition. Um, it was strange. It was really, really strange because I always enjoyed kind of giving my fair opinion on things. And not that like I talked a whole lot during certain meetings, like I did a lot during the check-in, but never like on the topic. I kind of throw my 2 cents here and there. But transitioning from being like the leader or the supreme emperor, whatever the title we want to use, um, it was definitely like a transition because you kind of start realizing I'm here for these Brew Crew members. I'm not here for myself anymore. Not saying it's like I couldn't share my opinion or talk, but it was more of I'm going to try and get my members to open up if they want to open up, or try to make them feel comfortable to be able to talk about this topic or for their check-in or for their cleanse space. So it's kind of more of like I was letting the members pretty much like drive a car, but I was like controlling it still. Kind of letting them take more of like their space to be able to communicate and talk about like the different topics. And I just kind of interjected here and there because I think what makes Brew Crew good is that it's not this rigid square box of all these rules and, sometimes in Brew Crew we get too crazy. But for us, we never make it into we never make it out to be like, oh, that's like bad. We can't be doing that. It's just more of like, hey guys, let's make sure at least get back onto the topic track and blah, blah, blah. Like there wasn't never really like issues, I should say. So it was a great transition. I was honored that I got to be a leader of this organization. It was a great time. I always loved it. That's why I wanted to be a leader, because I didn't want it to die. I thought I could do some good ideas, tried to do some things here and there, didn't implement them well. But, overall, like I'm glad I got to do that transition because, for one, I thought it was important for me to be in charge just for the fact to have that experience and also kind of see a group that I really love and care about still try to go strong for my last 2 years. Sorry for the long-winded tangent.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I think that that's a lot of people's stories is just, it was a safe place. It was, I don't want to use this term liberally, but it was a home. It was a community. It was where you went to be supported. It was where you could break down the walls, and just be. Yeah, it's definitely beautiful because I remember coming in. I was really very rigid and very close to the vest kind of person, which is odd because most people think I talk too much now. But that flip happened literally like my third meeting. It was just me and Brian, and I just said everything. I just said my entire life story. I don't think I left a single thing out. And he looked at me and goes, "Well, I was gonna say a topic, but we have 2 minutes left." And that was it. Like, he didn't offer advice. He didn't do anything. He just let me say it. And
Yeah,
sometimes that's all you need. You just need to be heard.
I agree with that. I think it's good to have just an ear to be able to just vent to.
Yeah.
And the advice comes from, if we talk about microbrews and stuff like that, and usually that tries to be a issue here. Let's try and see a way to like maybe fix it or solve it, or
Yeah.
just another ear, just a more private one.
So yeah, what Ty referenced is whenever there'd be like just you and the leader, or you and like two other people from Brew Crew, we usually call them micro brews, which is again a pun based off of beer. We were in college in Mail,
It
so
makes sense. It makes
yeah,
sense.
and that was really fun. And that, but that you're right, that offered a whole new thing, because this is not an advice group. That, like, microbrews were for advice. Like, there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
And even sometimes it's just, I just need you to listen, because I mean, you've probably given tons of microbrew sessions where like someone will stay a little bit behind or a little bit before, or text you, and then you just listen.
Not as much as you think. I think you got more of the mantle, more of the mantle on like that one. Because I mean, I know like me and you had microbrews, and I know,
Yeah, it's mostly you. That's what I was about to say.
yeah, but like but it was that different environment which I enjoyed, because it was still Brew Crew. It just
Yeah,
was under a different circumstances of like, oh, here's my advice on the situation.
yeah. But the one thing I'll disagree with you is when you said, as a leader, you're not there for yourself. You're there for the members. That is true to a point, because if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be there. And it's not a job, because I remember when I first tried to get it started, I had famous battles with the campus ministry office that we're just not, I do not want to get
Yeah,
into right now.
we don't need to go into that. We don't need to talk
No.
about that.
But when I retired, I looked at it, and I looked at all the time I devoted and all of my energy and talent, blood, sweat, and tears. And I looked at it, and it wasn't like, well, that was a waste of time, or man, why did I devote all that time to this, or I'm going to regret that in a few years. It was, I didn't realize how much I put into it until someone pointed it out to me. Like,
Yeah,
to me, I put that much into it, and I didn't think much of it. I was like, it really isn't that much work. And then I would go back and look at how many hours a week I devote to it, and I'll be like, oh, that's a lot. Um, and as I said, when I retired, I was like, this was never work to me. Like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But I never considered anything I did with Brew Crew as work,
yeah,
because you're just as much. It's just as much your meeting as it is theirs when you're the leader.
true. And maybe that can actually open up another question. I don't know how much time we have.
Uh, well, we said we weren't going to talk for an hour, and we just hit it. So I think, right? We started
Uh,
recording at like 30, right? Right?
I thought it was like 5:40, or I mean,
Oh
excuse me,
well, we're
like
close.
4:40.
That's all I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, you're right. It was 40, so we have 10 minutes left.
uh, so I was thinking I had two questions, but if you want to pick a question, you can. I was going to say, we're talking about leadership and how we have disagreement, not really disagreement, but the idea of like, do we talk about our topics? Like, how do we come up with the topics? Or do you want to discuss more of like what we're trying to do on this like online format?
I think we should do that one. I think we should say, like, what should we do on this online format, and going forward, how it's going to look, hopefully. Knock on wood. That wasn't actually wood. I don't know what I.
This was actually wood.
See, I reached for wood, and then you wouldn't be surprised. This is what I accidentally hit.
Oh yeah, that's wood easily.
Yeah, this is Rock'em Sock'em Robots. That's not surprising knowing me, but I just have that readily available.
Do you want to go into discussing like the online format?
So kind of where this idea came from, and I approached Ty with it, was I thought of doing it in an online format like this, and Ty even went out and found a podcast that's very similar, which has a format like this, just a group of friends talking. For us, it's just going to be us talking, but we had this idea also of incorporating a viewership where we would try to have a social media arm of like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email, whatever. Try to be available to as many people and as many tech skill sets there are.
Yeah, a way, for being on the online format, like you're kind of talking about more of us just having like an arm's length in social media with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to be able to have our viewers in a sense interact by either giving us maybe topics that they want to hear what we think about, or they want us to maybe be like, oh, how do you guys feel about this? Or, hey, I'm really struggling with this or this or this, or be able to talk about maybe, because it's not all doom and gloom. Like maybe someone reaches out and talks about something really positive.
Okay, so we're approaching time right now, and as we did these meetings for a number of years, they only held out an hour, and very often it was, "Hey guys, we're ending," and it was an audible "aw," and people would stay for hours after. But and sometimes it was like Thursday night football, and people were out the door as soon as I said that. But yeah, I mean, the hope that this ministry, that the Brew Crew ministry moving online would be that it grows and that we can incorporate at least one, as Ty said. I'd be happy just for one viewer to give us a check-in, a claim space, a topic suggestion, or chiming in on the topic at some point.
Yeah. No matter how big or small, like I feel like that would mean a lot to be like, oh wow, okay, cool. Like this can do something for one person that like we haven't met.
Yeah, or just a comment saying, "You guys at least look like your friends."
True.
Yeah.
And then we could reply saying, "Only on screen."
Yeah, off screen. This doesn't work.
Yeah, this is all fake.
Yeah, it's all great acting and CGI.
A lot of CGI. James Cameron level CGI.
Yeah. We actually both have. That's why you can't see our arms, because we're stabbing voodoo dolls.
Yeah. To pay no attention to my hand.
Way to go, Ty. Way to go.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were going to Like, you could have said legs or something, because, like,
All right, fine. How would you stab it? Never mind.
Because you can't see my legs, though.
That's a good point.
But, like, I was already at my chin. Okay, it doesn't matter.
You're not supposed to be touching your chin with COVID-19.
I've been in... I'm sheltered. I'm fine.
Anyway, so how'd you want to end it?
I really like peace and all good things. Maybe it should be something like...
I thought you were going to say the quote.
Oh, I don't know the quote. You know the quote.
Oh. Pawn it off on me, like always. All right. So as Ty suggested, we should end it with a quote, and I guess that means you're on.
Yeah.
It's your homework to think of one for next week, because I got this week.
Definitely, I can think of a quote.
So the quote that I was going to sign off with as food for thought is the quote actually that has been so connected to this group and appears, I think, twice in the guide of how to lead this group that I wrote. I think it appears twice. It's a St. Francis quote. We both went to Alberta University, which is a wonderful Franciscan university. It's one of only 26 in the country. I don't know why I know that. I used to be a tour guide, as you can tell. And he said, very, very awesomely, he said, and very, very rightly, he said, you must start off, quote, start off by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you achieve the impossible, end quote. Now, obviously, I'm going off of memory, so that's paraphrased. It might not be the exact wording, but that is the food for thought for today. Ty, anything to add?
No, I think it's a perfect way to end it.
All right.
Can I do the honors? Peace. And oh man, I messed up.
This video is never gonna end. We've been
it's all right
for like 2 hours.
Well, because the problem is we can talk about literally everything.
We're gonna have like 20 minutes of usable footage.
No, get out of here. All right. Anyway, peace and all good things. I hope you have a great day or the rest of your night whenever we decide to upload this.
Yeah, and we hope to see you next time.
See you next week.
Yeah. Peace. Talk about fatherhood a lot. That's lit, fam. And did I do it right?
Yeah.
All right.